Hey friends, I am Casey, and I sometimes just get asked questions about varying opinions or understandings I might have of different things that are happening in the world. And I have always just known things with a kind of intuitiveness called claircognizance, like just downloads of information appeared in my head even when I was a little kid. People would be like, "How'd you know that?" And I'd be like, I don't know, I just do know it. And the kind of knowledge is this knowledge that resonates as truth in my whole being. I can feel it and it's very tangible. So I often also supplement that with reading and researching everything I can get my hands on about a topic that fascinates me. So, one of those things that's always fascinated me was religion and spirituality on planet Earth from a really young age. So, I was born and raised Catholic, not super strict, but I did go to a Catholic school and I had a lot of exposure to my first religious sort of things through that element. And it was actually a really loving and compassionate environment. I also found other religions and spiritual traditions of the past fascinating. Like when I was about 8 years old, I read a book about Egypt and I was like, oh, I remember being there. I remember that. It just resonated with me deeply in my soul knowing and remembrance. So I have always had this connection to spirit and this ability to remember things that are often hidden from us when we incarnate on earth. So that means things like past lives and just understandings, or at least I had kind of glimpses of them. They'd be kind of deep inside, and I'd be like, I feel like this is truth. I'm going to go and explore and find out and research more. And then as soon as through my research I'd come to be like, okay, yeah, it's totally the truth. This is how I understand the world to be. Then I would be, I guess, rewarded from figuring it out with all of this information of other people going like, yes, this is the truth. I would piece it together myself, and then all these other people's books and writings and papers and blogs and all that would confirm my suspicions. So I always would look at religion and I would think, they're so close. They've got a really good beginning, but they're missing a lot of the bigger picture. And I could just feel that a lot of the nuances and a lot of the extra things were totally man made, and they weren't the word of God and the things that really mattered. And as I grew up through high school and university, I studied Eastern and Western religions really extensively. And I came to notice that all of the masters were saying the same thing: Jesus and Buddha and just all of the avatars from Hindu religions. They were basically like, it's about the love, the golden rule, be good to people around you. The kingdom is within you. You have to go within to understand the entire world, and all of that is available to you. So all of these things, it's like, okay, this is the truth, and all of the rest is just man-made exopolitical control through fear and just other taking away the power of people to have their own unique experience directly with source, with spirit, with God, with whatever it is. If you look at all of the mystic traditions from each of the major religions, they all wind up saying the same thing, whether it's the Kabbalah or if it's the Sufis or the Christian Gnostics. They're all talking about the divine being the beloved, the lover and the sister and the brother and the father and the mother all at once, and they had these tangible experiences. And I've had lots of those too, where I feel source energy or my connection to the divine feminine or the divine masculine spirit within me, to my guides, to angels, and everything like that. I feel energy. And so it's always been very clear to me when things were truth, because I feel it in my body. It lights up my soul, and I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that already. So someone recently asked me, what do I think about religion? And so I started answering that question to you, talking about the exopolitical control, the bureaucracy, the taking away of people's power. And it has been stripped away from the individual for, in most major traditions, for a very long time. There have been intermediaries like priests, like anyone besides you would get knowledge directly from God. And for a very long time, if you were saying that you were getting knowledge direct from God, you might be thought of as a mystic, but you probably were told you're a crazy person, because God only speaks to the prophets. God only speaks to the special chosen people. Here's the thing. There is no discrimination from source or God or the universe or whatever you feel very comfortable calling it. We all have a direct connection that is through our heart, through our crown as well, this connection to everything that is, that we are just a fractal of. So I love the expression or the saying from Rumi that is about source, the universe, God being the ocean, and we are like waves on the ocean. We're not separate, but we might have forgotten that we were the ocean because we feel like we're separate. That separation is just an illusion. And that illusion has been maintained through all of the Hindu and Vedic traditions and in other Buddhist traditions, things like that, where they're like, this is not the reality. And a lot of Western traditions have become not just through the traditions themselves, but through all of the other things that are contained within the culture, very dualistic. The Descartes, I think, therefore I am, and the rationalization and the compartmentalization of everything, including our mind and our body and our soul, has created this division in our, and I'm speaking our because I live in this culture in Western Canada and the Western world, where we were often considered separate from God, from Source, even though we were like children. The children were not given any agency, even though that's what the Christ, the Messiah, Jesus said himself, is like, whatever I do, you guys can do too. This is available to everybody. That message kind of got obscured because it wasn't in the greatest political gain for the people that were in control. And there is a renaissance now of people reclaiming their connection to their own divinity and to source energy and to everything outside of this physical body that they are. And if you're watching this, I'm sure you are part of that. And I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard already. But this is an amazing time where we are removing the intermediaries and we're returning to what the ancients have known and always known and kept alive in so many other traditions, especially the Eastern ones, but in different mystical branches of all religions all over the world. If we go within, we are able to connect to everything. And there's science backing this up now, where we have had studies come out saying that there are other kinds of dimensional structures, like 11th and 12th dimensional structures in the brain. There's all kinds of inner technologies that we have to access dimensions outside of our own. It's all just a lens of perception that we are looking through, and also our frequency and our vibration. And when we're able to consciously manipulate, and not manipulate in a bad way, but to consciously raise our vibration, which is kind of the goal for everybody right now through this ascension process, we are able to connect ourselves to that which is us, but outside of us. And that's a really, really beautiful thing to be able to do. Can you hear the song of my cat Moo singing the song of his people? It's a little whiny and very authentic. He wishes I was paying attention to him right now, but Moo, I'll get you in a few minutes, buddy. Siamese cat really likes to speak. So I was talking about this renaissance of our connection from no longer needing an intermediary between us and all that is around us, that is outside us, source energy, consciousness, the fractals from source that we are in our multidimensional selves. We are seeing this as people tend to be moving away from these organized traditions, but they will define themselves as spiritual. And I've been talking more and more freely over the last while about my own connection to my own inner knowing, to my intuition, to source consciousness. And to be honest, it has been way better received than I expected, because it's something that most people have an inkling of. Everybody has this truth barometer within them. They don't have to go to an outside source, to a priest, to a holy text to know what is right. If you tune into your body and your heart, you can feel it. And this is something that some people are gifted with. I have always felt and known and heard and seen things. However, it's something that can be cultivated by going into stillness and paying attention. So this ability to connect to our own truth is what creates this ability for us to stand in our own power, and no one can tell us what is right or wrong in this case. We just know in our hearts of hearts, and that is everything. That is us being able to disseminate truth from fiction. That is our ability to hear what someone is saying, but to feel it as well, and to know if they are telling the truth, telling a lie, fabricating, confusing things, or maybe they believe it to be truth, but it is not. So once we are able to tap into our inner knowing, we are so powerful. And that has been something that the powers that be for so many years, so many eons in humanity have wanted to shut down. Because when people are not connected to their own inner knowing, then they can be much more easily controlled, manipulated, and lied to. And we are moving out of that. Not only do we have access to this inner technology, but outer technology as well. All of these things are coming to light now because information can't be hidden this way it once was. So with the internet, social media, recording devices like the one I'm speaking to you on, it doesn't take any time at all for information to travel when it used to take years for news to travel across the planet. So we can do now in an instant what would have taken someone on horseback maybe 6 months to deliver a message across, from Europe to somewhere in the Middle East. So we now are moving into a time where things are being illuminated with the light of truth and consciousness. And that is why it seems super chaotic around us all now. If we look, there seems like there's all these scandals and things are worse than ever, but it's not true. It's always been there. In fact, it's been worse before. Now, these things can't hide in the darkness. I don't want to get into all the dark and terrible news that we're seeing constantly. Don't get me started on the 24-hour news cycle and how that inspires fear and anxiety in people. But this illumination of the darkness that's been hiding under everything, from sexual abuse to prejudice to racism and all kinds of other wrongs, things that have not been for the highest and best good of all of the people involved, they're being illuminated. And that means it's going to be chaotic as we're bringing these things to light, and society is saying, this is not okay. And some people are like, no, it's totally fine. It's how it's always been done. It's totally good. Those people are on the wrong side of history. And we are going to be looking at a lot of these things like we look at slavery now. The advances that are coming in our social awareness are huge. The things that people are being taught in school now are just leaps and bounds ahead of what we were talking about in when I was going to elementary school. There is just so much consciousness and awareness and mindfulness now, and children are being taught to tune in to what is kind and what is loving. And that is where we are going next. We as a society are raising our standards, and I invite you to do the same, to say that only the frequency of love, way up here, even higher than here, way up here, only love and kindness is what we will stand for now. And this is where we are going. I saw an amazing meme today on Facebook that was saying, you call us snowflakes, but we are the ones who are healing generational wounds of things that have not been okay for a very long time, if ever. And we are just bringing those things to light and to love and to justice. So I implore you to start connecting to your own truth barometer. Could be your body. When you hear something, tune in and ask yourself, how does it make you feel? Do you get a feeling of expansion and elation, or does it make you feel heavy and sticky? Maybe if you hear truth, you're like me and you'll get goosebumps, or what my sister calls them, truth bumps. And I love that. We can feel things in our bodies. we have this in our languaging. We say we have a gut feeling. We have this second central nervous system within our gut, actually, and it actually controls more of our hormonal and endocrine responses than our brain does. And we really can learn a lot from paying attention to how our guts, how our stomach feels. So many digestive ailments and physical ailments of all kinds are our body telling us things are not okay. Things are not all right in our life or maybe in the world around us. Our bodies are the heralds of our emotions that we sometimes don't pay conscious attention to and just stuff on down, and we don't allow ourselves to really feel them or know them. So these messages, these instincts, these intuitions that you have through your body, please listen to what your body is saying. Please disseminate information through your body and through your intuition. So if you hear something that sounds too good to be true, check in with yourself. There is so much that we can do to connect to our own power, to know what is truth. And this takes away the need for all of these large organizations to control what we are knowing as truth. And we're moving out of that time and into a time where people are connected to their own personal truth. And truth with a big capital T is going to be just one thing. Yet we all have all of these different experiences and our own smaller truths because of our experiences and because of the lens through which we see the world. So when I'm saying connect to your truth, there are two levels of that. There's tapping into the truth that you experience and that you're feeling because of who you are and where you've been and how you've been treated and all of that. But there's also the big T, capital T truth of what is eternal and what is like just a whoosh in your body. Have you ever just felt that before? Felt the knowing without knowing why? That is your intuition connected to your higher self, who's just a future version of you who resides outside of time and space, who has a grander perspective. So you are able to tune into this, to move into a space of heart-centered consciousness by practicing connecting into stillness. I hope you get to practice lots. I'll give you some more about that next time. My daughter's home, so I will leave this by.